everyone has pride in their story, right? And they should be proud of what they've been able to accomplish because it is not easy to start a business. It's not even easy to think about starting it because just like the person you're referring to, all the doubt is going to come in, and that's what's going to stop you, right?
Hmm.
If you choose not to do it, it's because of that doubt of, well, can I make it? Oh, I don't know. And then maybe 10, 15 years down the line, you'd be thinking, man, I should have started that.
So, Cecil, I was talking to someone a short time ago, and they were considering making a leap into starting their own business.
Oh, okay.
Um, but they had a lot of questions.
Right.
And maybe not questions isn't the right word. I think they had doubts. I think doubts is the right word.
Right.
They were wondering, can I do it? What do I need to do? Um, will I be able to do this while I still have a full-time job? And as we were talking, I tapped into my experiences, the experiences that I've had with the folks that we've had on that we've interviewed.
Right.
And I was basically explaining to them some of the things that I've learned as far as insurance, grants, marketing, all the good stuff that you and I have discussed with our guests.
Right.
And it started to dawn on me that I think when most people think about starting a business, they just think about what is it that I'm going to do, whether it's a product or service, who are going to be my customers. But they have no clue or no idea about, yes, I need to incorporate, I need to get insurance.
Yeah.
Now, how do I go about getting funding?
Yeah.
Again, all the conversations that we've had have been great because I started to ask them questions as far as, well, have you thought of this? Have you, when it comes to insurance, what type of insurance are you considering? Do you even know? And they just kind of give me that deer in the headlights look.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
they need to watch the episodes. Yeah.
Well, exactly. So I'll say they probably have seen one or two episodes, but haven't seen them all.
Yeah.
And it dawned on me because I'm like, it's fascinating to watch because a lot of people, they want to follow their dreams, they want to follow their passion, but that's one piece of it, right? That's one aspect to starting a business, and I thought it'd be a great discussion for us to have on our learning session today, because I think people, again, right, when they're thinking of starting a business, right, they're thinking about, well, for example, this person is, well, what type of exposure do I have?
Right.
Meaning, if I do something or if I start servicing customers, is there a likelihood that the current business that I'm working for will sue me or come after me because maybe I'm competing with them, even if I don't think I am? Or maybe intellectual property that I'm building, do they now have a case to come after me for that? And so, like, these are the things that, and so again, these are the things that I'm asking them, right? Have you thought of that? Have you, like, what are your plans? What are you doing?
Right.
And also when it comes to funding, it's like, well, how are you going to fund this? And, again, you could see them, you see the gears going and they're thinking about it. And I'm like, well, you got to have at the very least some sort of liability insurance, right? At the very least, just to start.
But they actually, in those situations, though, they kind of, what they should do is talk to an attorney ahead of time.
Mm-hmm.
Let's have a consult,
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
and so
that's one of the things one of the people I'd like to actually have on the show at some point is an attorney, right? So to sort of talk about that piece of it, because those questions would come up and it would make sense to ask those questions, especially if you're doing something, if it's like your start into the business is going to be a sort of side hustle you're doing.
Right. And it got me thinking because I'm like, we talk to all these people that have started their own business that are entrepreneurs. But I think people look at entrepreneurship as, I can just start a business because I'm very good at whatever. I'm very good at this. right? And it's like, as someone who's you've done this what now? So this is your second time, third time starting doing a business?
Yeah, about three. It's my third business.
Yeah, and like with most things, right? You learn as you as mistakes are made, you learn, right? You learn and you grow, and so I think it would be beneficial for people to hear some of the things that maybe you overlooked, and then also go into, oh, these are the things you should be considering when you're thinking about, even if it's just doing it as a side hustle, right? Because there are many things you still have to consider, even if it is a side hustle, right? Especially if you want to say, hey, I want to try this out, and then maybe look at making it a full-fledged business.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that. I mean, I learned so much. The first business I actually started was with you. Right. So we started a business from a technology standpoint. And one thing that I learned from that piece was that I went to a person that was in the industry, like was a business person and starting business. And it's one thing that he said to me that I'd never forget. Like, he looked at all of our backgrounds and he says, the problem that you guys have is that all of you are good at the same thing. Right. And that made me think, it's like, yeah, you don't have like a person that does sales. You don't have a person that does, the business side of things, right? That handles the business or the bookkeeping. Right. You guys all are in technology. You're all good at technology. You may be doing different things in technology, but that's all you do. That's all each of you do. And the whole process was like, okay, now we know how to do that business, but we don't know how to run a business.
Right.
And that, and that really stuck out to me. And that happens to a lot of people, right? Like, you see restaurateurs all the time. I don't know if we mentioned it before on this, but they open up a restaurant. And I think we have mentioned this. And they open up a restaurant and, they know how to cook. They're great at cooking, but restaurants are a business. So do you know how to run a business? Like, do you know how to run a restaurant? It's great if you know how to cook, sure. But if you don't know how to run a business, then that becomes a problem. And, I learned that in our first business and carried that on. And even into, my second business, I built a team, around that, got people involved that did different things, that had their own business, like got an attorney, got an accountant, and that made it a lot easier. And even learning from that business, coming into, CNH Insurance, which is something that I, kind of wanted to get to from the beginning, the type of business that it is. Building the team, understanding that I can't do it all, understanding that I need a staff, understanding that there's certain things that I need for the business has really helped me. But the experiences that I had in the past is what got me to this level to have a business that I've now been running for over 10 years.
Yeah. What would you say to those people that would say that again, right, they're starting out. So let's just say they have a regular 9-to-5 job. Maybe they have a couple, a few dollars in their savings account, but they're going to say, hey, I don't know that I can afford an attorney. Right? I just want to get going, but I don't know that I can afford an attorney. Like, what do you tell those people?
I would say, I would never tell anybody not to go out and do what they have a passion for, because you're going to learn something even in failure. Really, you're only going to learn in failure. Right. But I would say this, you have to plan, right? And you have to understand that you're not going to know everything. And, cutting corners can end up costing you a lot. Right. So I would honestly say, if, like, in the situation you just brought up, in that situation, I would say, listen, you may not be able to talk to afford an attorney, but you may be able to pull together a couple $100s for a consultation. And you don't have to go to an attorney. Maybe go to SBA, right? Small business, go to SBDC, like a Small Business Development Center.
Yep.
They may be able to help you with the questions that you have, because there are organizations out there that are mainly focused on trying to help you start your business. So do that research. Look for the free options, right?
Yeah. So I don't want to stop you there, just because it was something that I also discussed with this individual. most people who are working for large organizations kind of see the end result. Right. And they see all the resources that are available to these bigger organizations because they have the capital, they have the money, they can spend it, they can invest in it, they can do a bunch of things. They just have the means. Whereas someone starting out doesn't. And I think, again, people who don't have that experience or don't have the connections and resources just don't have that knowledge to know, like, there are centers, there are organizations that are looking to help small businesses. So I mentioned that to him, and again, that individual kind of looked puzzled when I mentioned it. I said, well, you know, a chamber of commerce, for example, or an SBA, they're all over the place. Every state has them. You can go to one of their facilities and you can use it to maybe hold meetings, right? You may not have an office space. You may not be able to afford it. You may be doing this out of your basement, but if you want to have, let's say, a more formal, comfortable environment, you can go and for maybe a small fee or even just for a membership or whatever, you can take advantage of those resources, and you'll have a nice facility where you can have a meeting. You can have a video conference call. You can even do podcasting.
Oh yeah.
And when you start to mention these things, people are they're just not aware. They just, again, because most people who are coming from larger organizations are like, well, I'm seeing the end result.
It's already done for me. Yeah. It's already done. Right. What do I got to do? Yeah. But you're absolutely right on that. I mean, we'll use a chamber, for example. When I first got started my business, that's what I did. I joined a chamber, right? Because I was thinking, you know, what's the best place to meet people that are potential clients, right? Prospects, right?
And if you don't mind sharing, Cecil, how much, like, what are we talking about here when you're saying you joined? Is it a few bucks? Is it, did you say?
No, it's a few $100s. I mean, it can be a cost to somebody that's not making anything. I mean, you know, if you're not really, your business is not established and you don't have steady funds coming in, it can be an expense, right? It's going to be a few $100s, but it's going to be worth it. I mean, the way I looked at it is, if I'm going to spend the money, I'm going to get it back, right? That's because, as I said, people say money comes and money goes. I always just say money comes and money comes. So, you know, there's always money to go get. So the way I always kind of looked at it is like, yeah, I'll pay, but it's got to be strategic. It's like, is it going to help me? Is it something that I can gain value from? So if I have, like, if you're in a chamber, like you join a membership, then you go ahead. You may not have access to a office, but in certain situations, you can have a virtual office at a chamber, right? If you need a meeting room, you're already a member, you can schedule time to use one of their conference rooms. They're open to that. And things like, you have questions about the legal situation, talk to them about, do you know a local attorney that may be able to help me out? Or they have access to the SBA, so they can help you from there. I mean, there's an entire list of people in the organization that are actually there to do business, but also there to help you because they have access to nonprofits as well. So a chamber is one really good resource I think every small business should try to get involved with. You know, and they're different depending on what town you may be in Connecticut, or what state you may be in. But, you know, it's a good resource to go feel it out, see what type of people are that are members there and that you can communicate with, and talk about the resources that they can offer to help you get started with questions that you may have. You know?
Yeah. I mean, and also when you're there, you're running into people, I'm assuming you're running into other small business owners.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that could be, see, you go into business, right? Some people go into business and networking and they think, oh, I'm going to network this person. You give me business, I give you business. Yes. You know, that's the networking piece of it. But in reality is you join certain organizations, there are potential clients there as well. Right. But like I said before, everybody is also a sales rep. Right. You don't go in trying to sell to anybody. But the reality is that some people can be clients. Right. So you go in, make yourself known, network, meet with people. They get to know you. You get to know them. And then they may feel comfortable about doing business with you. But most importantly, you want them to feel comfortable about referring business to you. That's really the most important thing. But if you can help them as well, why not? You know, that's the whole part of doing business. And then obviously, if you know their business, you would you kind of do the same. They may be able to help you. So if you run into an attorney and you have questions and you're at an event, and like this gentleman or female that you were talking about, and they say, oh, well, I have this question. I'm working for this company, and I was thinking, if I go out on my own, where are my issues? They might have a drink with you right there and say, oh, well, these are the things that you got to think about. Yeah, you do have some risk here, but you can't do this or that. So, getting in those rooms and talking to people is always going to be helpful. But it's not just the chamber. I just want to make that clear. I think it's a great resource. Mm-hmm. But there are other things, like we had Caesar on, CBNA, great networking group, right? From a networking, getting to know people, similar to a chamber perspective. Those are kind of groups that you want to kind of be involved with when you're first getting started. It may be an investment, but it's worth the investment, I think.
Yeah. And, one thing I didn't get a chance to discuss with this individual was the fact that most owners are willing to give you free advice. I'm not saying they're going to give you all the details, but they're more than happy to guide and coach. And because, to your point, this could lead to additional sales, right? It could lead to other opportunities. And so it's like, you'll be surprised how much business owners are willing to share. I mean, and we're seeing it too, right? As we interview people and all our guests, they're all happy to share. I mean, obviously they're talking about stuff they're passionate about, but they want to share. Like they just want to help. How can I help you, right? How can I help other organizations? How can I help other people? And it's like, all you got to do is talk to people and ask. It's really not that hard. And to your point, going to these networking events, I mean, you see it all the time. All the time, yeah. Everyone has similar energy. Everyone wants to see each other succeed, right? It's like, it's just infectious. You just see it, you feel it. And I think, again, people who are not exposed to these things, especially when they're thinking about starting their own side hustle, I think it's an unfortunate thing where they just lack the knowledge. They just don't know. Yeah. And what was the other thing we had discussed? We talked about financing. So we talked about, I reflected back to the conversation that we had with Rose. Yeah. And how Rose was talking about grants. And I mentioned to him grants. And he looked puzzled. And I'm like, well, you can get grants, right? And he's like, what do you mean I can get grants? I'm like, and so we started talking about grants. And I'm like, I don't know all the details, but I know that if this is what you can get grants for. And if you want to, and then say you don't get grants, but you want to get financial backing from a bank, same thing. I mentioned some of the stuff that Rose said, and he was like, oh, I didn't know you could do that. I'm like, yeah, you see, these are the things, right? That's why you got to watch the show.
Watch the episode.
Right? That's the whole point of what we're trying to do.
Yeah, exactly.
And so it's one of those things where I'm like, so I know that what we're doing, I'm almost positive it can add value. And so I feel good. I feel good when I have these conversations because I'm like, hey, this is exactly what we're trying to do. Right? We're trying to help. We're trying to give everyone the information that is not, I don't want to say readily available, but most people don't know that information is out there or don't know what to ask. Oh yeah. So go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, it's just the thing is that, we don't claim to have all the answers. Well, no, that's why we bring on guests, right? The people that do have the answers. And the thing is like the communication, right? Everyone has pride in their story, right? And they should be proud of what they've been able to accomplish because it is not easy to start a business. It's not even easy to think about starting it because just like the person you're referring to, all the doubt is going to come in, and that's what's going to stop you, right? Mm-hmm. If you choose not to do it, it's because of that doubt. That doubt of, well, can I make it? Oh, I don't know. And then maybe 10, 15 years down the line, you'd be thinking, man, I should have started that, right? So it takes a lot of courage and a lot of pride, well, really courage up front. And then once you've been able to accomplish, get to a certain level, then there's pride that's involved with that. And you're proud, you want to share that. So you're open to talking to people about how you got started, what they can do to get started. So, and we kind of see that with everyone that we kind of interview. They have a sense of pride in what they've done because they should be proud of the steps that they've taken. It's almost like joining the military. There is a sense of pride in doing that because you did what only 1% of the population has done, and that's volunteer, right? So, kudos to all of our guests that came on the show. And you're right. it can be a great help for people watching us, watching what they're saying and what we're talking about.
So you talked about getting a lawyer, starting there. What I guess what do you do after that? You're getting a lawyer. You're figuring out, again, you got to get insurance. What other things should people be looking at? Again, keeping in mind that I may not have the funds up front, but there are probably some, I'll call them basic necessities that you need to get your business going.
Well, it kind of goes back, is I think of it as like, what can I do for free? Mm-hmm. Right? Because when you're starting your business, you're light on funds, right? I say most people, because there are some people that they got $1 million to start their business. And, that's, if you got $1 million, you can do quite a bit, depending on the business. But if you didn't get that, you want to start light. You want to start with whatever you can get your hands on for free, whatever advice you can get for free or at a very minimal cost, right? And I always say, try to talk to people that have done it, right? Talk to people that have been through it, and they can help you sort of cut out a lot of the mistakes. Mm-hmm. But, sometimes that doesn't really work. Some people just want to experience those mistakes for whatever reason. They might not listen to your advice, but if you're going to try to do it right, you want to try to eliminate as much mistakes as you possibly can. Not saying that you're going to be able to eliminate them all by talking to people, but you can get a lot of things out of the way that, other people would have gone through and been able to say, listen, I did this. This is what happened to me. I wouldn't recommend you do it that way, but there's other ways that it can be done, and sort of listen and take what you can from those talks. So an attorney is one thing, but really almost trying to find a mentor, that's kind of going through it. I think that's a big help. But if you don't have that, research, right? Find out where you can find something for free. Be as cheap as you possibly can. I mean, seriously. I'm curious. I do without spending any money. Period.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I consider kind of like a necessity, like bare bones, I'm saying. So you're saying lawyer. I would now say insurance. What did you do as far as accounting when you started out? Because accounting is, that's a whole different animal too, right?
Yeah, that's the important part of your business, man. And and accounts can be costly, right? But they're necessary, especially if you're dealing with a lot of revenue on an annual basis. I first start off, I use I don't want to plug, but I've used a software.
Software, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I use a software initially. And like in some of my other businesses, I've had accountants, like I've said, that have straight up done it. I've had accountants that I've known for years. I've got new accountants that were local to the area to help in managing the money. Because once you're in it, it's best, like I said, to have a team that can work on that if you can. Yeah. If you don't have the funds, then I would say, like I said before, go to to an SBA. Or like the SBDC, that's a development center that they have. Really talk about, are there resources that may be able to help from accounting, touch base on the grants, see if you can get money to help there. But if you don't have any revenue, your accounting process is kind of easy, right? Right. It's like 0 = 0. That's what it is.
I will say that. Yeah. I mean, I agree with you. So when I had my small business starting out, we were generating revenue, but it wasn't a lot. I mean, we're still generating a nice amount, but I was able to do everything in software.
Yeah. Just get a good software. And then if you have questions, try to have somebody you can sort of reach out to. But it is a big piece of it. But as your revenue grows, it is 100% necessary to get somebody that knows how to manage that.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's when you can afford an accountant. That's when you can be like, I made it. I'm doing all right. Doing all right. Yeah.
Where do you see, I think, the biggest mistakes, right? Having met all these other business owners, entrepreneurs, what do you think? Because that, obviously what we think is our perception, but like, what do you think is the biggest mistake that some of these people who are starting out make? Is it spending too much money like on marketing? Like, what would you say is that piece right there?
To me, the easiest way to go out of business is not control your budget, man. Mm. Not really understand the funds, realize that, spend money when you have to grow, and don't spend all the money on yourself immediately, right? You start, like, if you start a business and it's like, oh man, I made $100,000 this year, but you got $90,000 in expenses and you made $10,000. That's what you made. It's that simple, right? So, really got to manage the money right. You got to focus on how understanding, like we said before in other videos, sales, how are you going to make the money, right? Really understanding that. And once the money is actually coming in, then you got to really know how you understand how to utilize it best. There might be a time where you're coming up in business and you're like, okay, we're making this amount of money. I can't do all of this on my own. I may have a team of a few people here and there, but we need to grow. So now you have to figure out, okay, how are we going to do that with the revenue that we have coming in? And how can I put the revenue that I have coming in towards growth, right? Yep. To increase the revenue we're coming in, not just take the revenue I'm got coming in and just toss it at something and then cross my fingers, right? You really have to just really try to understand, okay, if I put this here, what's my expectation of growth? And if you're not seeing that expectation quick enough, or it's not being realistic, you gotta pivot. Yeah. You're gonna have to pivot to find another option, because if growth is your key, then you got to really be strategic about how you're going about doing it. And you got to be willing to take a step back and look at it and say, well, no, this isn't working. I got to try something else.
Yeah. I think
it's hard. It's hard.
Yeah. There's a lot of fine line there, right? It's knowing when to scale versus, like you said, hey, I gotta tighten up a little bit.
Yeah.
Knowing when to pivot is another one. It's like you can't keep hitting the wall and think you're gonna break through. Like, you got to know when to say, hey, I gotta go around it. I can't just go straight through it.
Can't go through it. Maybe got to go around it, go above it, under it, and underneath.
Yeah, and so I think it would be great if you could touch on a little bit on. So when you started and I'm gonna butcher this. It was the organic. Dry cleaners.
Yeah, cleaners. Yeah,
right. Cleaners, yeah. And when you made the decision to pivot from that, how did you come to that conclusion?
That was easy. Wasn't making money.
Well, so it was like a goal, and you said, hey, if I'm not making money, like, what was the process? Yeah.
Well, that taught me so much, man. That taught me so much. Because
sorry, for those that don't know, right? You one of your businesses, when was it? I can't even remember the year.
That was many, many years ago, probably about close to 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah, it was a while. Damn, that long ago. Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, you started an organic, an organic dry cleaning business, correct?
Yeah, right. And when I knew it wasn't, because I could have gone on with it for a while. I could have continued on with it, but I made the decision. It was like, I was like thinking, talking to my wife, I was like, we can continue this process, or we can move on to something else. And I was actually, when I looked at it, I look at everything from a 5 year standpoint, right? So I looked at it and I said, okay, where would I be with this in 5 years? Right. And I said, I'll be exactly where I am now. And that was enough. Because if I didn't see a room for growth, then I knew it wasn't that. I didn't look at it as a failure, like me quitting. I looked at it as a step back point. Yeah. A step back, look at what I really want to do, what I want to focus on, what my capabilities are, what type of business I really want to have, and then go forward with that. So, I learned so much of what not to do and what to do. What things to do, because I did gain a lot of great skills in that business.
Yeah.
But it allowed me, when I knew it was when I was at a point where I really didn't see this getting to where I wanted it to be. I was like, well, okay, we can keep riding this along and just being this at the same level, or, and put stress on the family and everything like that. Or I could just say, all right, you went through it. You're not quitting anything. All you're doing is taking a step back for a minute. And that's exactly what I did. Closed up shop, took a step back, found out what I really wanted to do. Because I did insurance while I was doing that business as well, because I knew that pivot was coming.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Because I saw it. I'd been in the business for a little over 5 years, and I was like, it's not where I wanted to be. I don't see it getting to where I want it to be. And I'm putting time, effort, and energy, because I put so much time into that. Yeah. And then I gave insurance as an option because my family had been in the business for some time. And I saw a different path, which made it easier for me to make that transition, So
gotcha. So there's a couple of things there. Well, one, it sounds like it wasn't like, oh, I gave it 5 weeks, 5 months. It was like, no, you really put some time and effort into it.
Yeah, put a lot of time,
like, a lot of, and then that's a commitment, right? That's not something that you can just say, oh, I'm just going to spend 5 years. It's it's not 5 hours, man. That's 5 freaking years
of your life. Yeah,
that's 5 years of your life. And for some people that would defeat them, right? It's like, and so my question to you is, what steps did you take so that when you decided to move on to something else, it wasn't like, now we're broke, we got to live in the street. Like, right. What steps did you take to make sure that you had, right? Because people who try to jump into business, their biggest concern is, if I leave my cushy job, I'm at risk now, right? I could literally end up in the street because if I can't pay my mortgage or my rent, I'm out. Like, right. What did you do? Like, what advice would you give? Yeah.
Well, if you're going to be making the transition, put something aside, make sure that you have something to go into. Like, for people, we'll take it back to people that are, thinking about starting their own business, mm-hmm. right? Now, you're working somewhere else. You're going to start this business, maybe not quit your job right away, right? If you can, mm-hmm. try to keep it on, try to keep the job for as long as you can until you can build a business to where it can support you and your family. That's a very straightforward, easy transition. Some people would say, oh, burn all ships, right? Just quit, go into it 100%. That may be good, but that may not be financially stable for you and your family. So, you have to really look at your situation and determine, well, what's going to work for you. For me, it was more like, okay, we have to make this transition. So I made the plan maybe about 6 or 7, maybe even 8 months ahead of time to say, this is how I'm going to do it. And I found companies to work with, got into from insurance. I mean, my first insurance deal, after licensing and tests, I made back all the money I put into it. Mm. Right. So I was like, okay, this is putting me in a position where I can see growth. Right. Yeah. So I knew it was a possibility. I already had in my head, okay, where I'm going to be, not 5 years, but possibly 10 years. Right. Mm. Where's the business going to be? Where can I grow? Now, I don't mean to say that that's exactly what happened. Like, it got exactly where it was in my head, because I'm still not a billionaire yet. Right. So there's still time. Mm. Yeah. But, I did see levels of growth and opportunity there. And mm-hmm. more importantly, opportunity where I can do it for myself, right? Because when you're starting a business, you want it to be yours, mm-hmm. right? Now, you will hopefully get to a level where you're not the business anymore, and you're a business owner. So at that point, you've accomplished your goal in creating a business. Now you can look at it as such. So if it's time to sell it, or is it time to expand it, or is it time to partner with someone to have them come in and take it over? Whatever mm-hmm. it may be, you've done your part in becoming a business owner versus the business, right? And I think that's kind of where everybody should want to get to. not to the point where you're, take it back to restaurants, when you're in the kitchen in the back making all the meals, to the point where you have a staff that does all that. The business is profitable. It's bringing in income, and you're more of a leader than you are, in the weeds with doing all the day to day.
And I want to tie this back to one of our earlier learning sessions when we talked about beginning with an end in mind.
Right.
And I just want to reiterate the importance of that, because it sounds like that's what you had when you first started. And you clearly figured out quickly, well, I'll say quickly, but it took you a couple of years, but you figured out, I'm not going to get to that end. Not at this pace.
Well, right? That's how I came up with that.
Yeah. Yeah. There you go.
Yeah. That's how I came up with it. Yeah.
And I want to make it clear, at that time you had a wife, you had the 2 girls already, right?
Yeah. 2 kids. Yeah.
2 kids. And they're young kids. They're not, they weren't very young. They
weren't old. Like they are now.
You're talking like toddler. Yeah. Right.
You're 2 years old and 2 years old and 8 or 7 years old. Yeah. They were mad.
So you're a prime example of, listen, I tried something, it didn't work out, but as long as you're making or taking calculated risk, putting a plan together, right, executing, you can pivot, right? It's not the end of the world. It's not like you can take risks as long as, right, you're calculating and you're saying, hey, if this doesn't work, I already know that I need to pivot, and here's what I'm going to do.
Yeah,
and so you did.
You have to believe in yourself, right? That's one of the biggest things. You don't expect that if you go into business and it doesn't work out the way that you want, understand why you were doing it, right? Because the reason why I was in business, one, I couldn't do anything that I felt was going to be harmful to the environment around me, right? Reason why instead of opening up a standard cleaners, open up an environmentally friendly cleaners, right? Because everything that I've done has been around trying to help, trying to add or benefit, right? Even from an insurance standpoint. When I deal with a client, it's really about helping. If someone calls me and says, oh, my business isn't doing well, I need to sort of readjust things on the insurance, that's what we're going to do. We're going to try to make sure that, you have what you need, but at affordable rate that we can provide. Not saying that's always going to happen, but, I will always be there to try to help somebody, because that makes doing business worthwhile, right? It's not just about the money. The money is important, but the fact, if you're making money hurting people, the money, that's useless money. That's not worth anything to me. If I'm making money helping, then it's worthwhile to me. So, and that's what kind of how I've always focused my business. So just doing that has always helped me look towards that goal of where I want to be, how many people I can help, how can I grow it by focusing on helping. And, I got to say, even in the businesses that I had to shutter, it taught me so much about how to be a better business person that I don't look at it. I can't look at any of it as a failure. It's just part of the time in your life that got you to help you get to where you are today. That's all it is.
Yeah. Part of the learning process, man.
Part of the learning process.
Yeah. And I'll say one more thing. A lot of people talk about values, company values. What's your values? And it sounds like that's what you lead with. Not a lot of people, but I've heard some people talk about, hey, I want to get into, let's talk about sales, right? I want to get into account management because that's where all the glamour, the power, and right. But they're doing it for the wrong reasons. They're not taking a minute to say, hey, what are my values? What is it that, right? Where am I coming from? Because if you're talking about money and power, I think you're looking at it wrong, right? You're just looking at the shiny ball as opposed to like the effort and work that's required to get there. Because I think most people that end up being successful, right, they're doing it for their reasons. They obviously have reasons, but they have values, whatever those values are, and they're moving towards that. And they'll stick to, like, to your point, they'll stick to their values, and everything else, I can't mess with that. That's not part of my core values. I'm not messing with that. This is what I'm going to do, whether it's helping people, whether it's feeding people, whatever it may be, but this is what I'm doing, and I'm going to stick to that. Those are the people that I would say are typically successful.
Yeah. Those are the people that I find that can do well and they can look themselves in the mirror and they can be proud of what they've done.
Yeah.
You know, you find, unfortunately, that's not the norm. That's not everyone in business, right?
Yep.
We've all seen companies out there that have taken measures, have done things within their business that have been detrimental to their clients, to the community, and all for servicing of money. That's it. All for the dollar. You know, I used to tell friends all the time, and this is kind of bleak, but I used to say all the time, it's like, listen, if somebody comes to me and says, and I'll give you $2 million right now to go over there and hurt that person, I'd say no, right? But if you told me that person was coming to hurt my family, I'd do it for free.
Right.
Right? Because the money's just paper, right? But what matters is the people.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, if you look at that way in business, I don't see how, even if you're not going to be making $1 billion, and I know I said earlier $1 billion, but if I had $1 billion, I'd probably give half of it away, to be honest. Who needs $1 billion? But I know some people want to be, get to that point when they're making all this amount of money and everything, but it doesn't mean as much as the people that you surround yourself with and the reason why behind what you're doing it for. So
yeah. Yep, I get it. So I mean, these are the discussions that we're having, and I thought it would be a good idea for us to discuss this because I'm even if it's just for one person, right? I'm seeing that it's adding value, or just saying, hey, look, this information that we are, I'll say we're learning together, and that we're able to share, right, can help anyone. And so it's like, I think it's important that we continue to reiterate that, and that's what we're trying to do with this show, is really, like you said, sharing the knowledge, helping people, right? You want to start a business, we're here to help. This, we're trying to educate you. There's more than one way to skin the cat. So, just we want to continue to add value. Yeah.
I mean, it's adding value and definitely making sure people understand that there are other people that are going through the same things, that are more than willing to talk about their successes and their failures, and that's part of the game. That's the whole part of the process. Just because you think that it didn't go the way you wanted doesn't mean you failed. Mm-hmm. You only fail when you quit. So if you want to be a business owner, you want to run your own thing, or you want to partner with somebody, you want to start something up, don't be afraid. That fear is what's going to stop you. Don't be afraid to fail. Failure is going to make you a better person that you need to be to get to exactly the things that you want. So, but it's a great discussion. I'm glad you brought it up, and I hope the friend that you were talking to actually decides to jump in and get their feet wet.
Yeah, I hope so too.
Yeah. All right. Well, did you want to add anything else, Vic? You want to touch base on?
No, that was all. I thought it would be great to have you also share your insights, because I know you've been doing this for a minute now, and you've learned a lot. So thank you for sharing.
That. Yeah. So, well, thank you to everybody that's watching. As we say all the time, please subscribe. Allow us to grow this into something more. Allow us to help more people. We really do appreciate you guys taking the time to watch us, and we're thankful for all the time that you've given us the opportunity to share our stories and the stories of our guests with you. So we look forward to seeing you soon, and thanks for joining. Take care, guys.
Thank you.